Talking about the opponent, Patrick Brown joins us from Go Vols 24/7, part of the 247 Sports Network. And I guess, Patrick, we'll start right there. You cover the Vols. What's the temperature among the Tennessee fan base? Expectations coming off a college football playoff year. What are their expectations going into this season?
Well, guys, I think they're a little bit mixed. You always have the optimists, the eternal optimists that, think Tennessee will be back in the playoff, 10-2, 11-1, that kind of thing. You have the more reasonable fans who see 9 wins as sort of the expectation, and then you have some that look at the question marks and say, I think we'll lose a game, go 8-4. So I think there's a good mixture of fans. I do think some are a little confused why the polls that Tennessee has been in. They were picked to finish 9th in the SEC preseason poll. They were barely in the AP top 25 at number 24. But some of the metrics, the FPI and some other things have them close to the top 10. So it's sort of a mystery team. I guess a lot of teams at this stage of or going into the first game are kind of mysteries. But I think Tennessee fans are excited about the season and see Josh Heupel continuing the success that he's built down here in Rocky Top over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, both of these offenses have some mystery going into the new season. We can certainly speak from the Syracuse perspective, new quarterback, new running back, a lot of new receivers, a lot of new pieces on the offensive line. That sounds similar to what Tennessee's dealing with, right? I mean, I guess let's start at the quarterback position and what you make of Joey Aguilar. And do you think he's an upgrade from last year? Is he on the same level as Nico Imaliava? Or do you think they'll take a step back at that position?
I think there's probably a yes to both of your questions about it being an upgrade. Tennessee's offense, frankly, it was kind of mediocre last season. I mean, they had 3 games in October, 3 SEC games. They didn't score in the first half. So it's not like they lit the world on fire. Josh Heupel got there, and his first 2 teams were setting offensive records, program records left and right. Obviously, the 2022 team led the nation in scoring. But they've sort of taken a step back the last 2 seasons. They've still scored in the 30s per game, but certainly last season, Nico had a stretch where he looked like a freshman. So in a sense, I think, yes, the quarterback play can be upgraded by Joey Aguilar. I think he's a good fit for what Tennessee wants to do. He can run the football. I think his experience, he's a 24-year-old guy that's been around, that started at 2 seasons at Appalachian State. So he's been in multiple systems. He's seen a lot of defenses. So, and I think that experience helped him sort of win the job in preseason camp. The biggest unknown that we will never know with this whole Nico thing is what he was going to look like in his second season at Tennessee. And there were some people that thought he was going to sort of take off. So obviously he's got the traits. But Aguilar, just from a personality standpoint, is kind of the antithesis. He's really low key. I mean, this is a guy that's worked his way up from not getting any high school offers to going to 2 different junior colleges. He wasn't the starter starting out at his second junior college or at Appalachian State, and now he's thrust into this big spotlight at Tennessee. So I think he can improve on what Nico did last season, but, will he have played, will he be better than Nico might have been this season? That's the thing that we'll never know about this whole thing.
What about the running back position? Tennessee loses Dylan Sampson, Offensive Player of the Year in the SEC. Syracuse had trouble stopping the run at times last year. Tell us about the running back position. And secondly, do you anticipate Tennessee trying to run the ball maybe a little bit more on Syracuse, given the fact that SU struggled with that at times last year?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, and that's probably one of the misnomers of Tennessee's offense is, early on when Heupel got there, you even remember some of the UCF offenses with Dylan Gabriel, McKenzie Milton. They were, they kind of get shoehorned into, they throw it everywhere, just throw it down the field every play. They take their shots, maybe more than most, but they've always run the football really well in this offense. It's, and at Tennessee, they've rushed for more than 2,500 yards in all 4 seasons under Heupel. They've led the SEC in rushing the past 2 seasons. I think that's kind of what they had. They have a veteran offensive line last couple seasons that was able to execute their variety of schemes really well, and they have 2 running backs that are now on NFL rosters. You mentioned Dylan Sampson. Before him, it was Jalen Wright too. So I think that's part of it too. But the way this style of offense is, it kind of makes defenses sort of commit, and the way they spread the field and all that. And a lot of defenses over the past couple seasons have played 2 high safeties, flight boxes. So Tennessee's running into 5 and 6-man boxes, and I think that's contributed to the success they've had running the football, in addition to the components that they've had themselves. This running back group, I don't know that they have a true star like Wright or like Sampson, but they've got, I think, 3 guys that could be really pretty quality SEC college running backs. Deshaun Bishop is probably going to be their starter. Peyton Lewis is a guy that's a little bit Jalen Wright-esque in his build and his speed. And then they brought in Star Thomas, who played at Duke last season and led the Blue Devils in rushing. So, and he was an all-conference player at New Mexico State as well. So he brought some experience that they didn't really have. And I would expect to see all 3 of those guys on Saturday. But they're going to run the football well, and certainly, you mentioned Syracuse's issues, stopping the run. I think that's one of the big advantages I see Tennessee having in this game is their ability to run the football.
And one of the other advantages Tennessee, I would assume, has in this game is on the other side of the ball, and that's defensively 7 starters back from what was an elite defense. And, there's so much newness, so much uncertainty going into this opener. It feels like that's the one thing that, again, from the outside looking in, at least for us here in Syracuse, we look at, we say, what can we count on this game? It seems like we can count on Tennessee's going to have a really good defense this year.
Yeah, I don't think internally they expect to have much of a drop-off. Now, there are some things that I think need to happen for them to reach their full potential. They need to find some pass rushers. They lost their top 2 guys to the NFL draft. James Pierce was a first-round pick with the Falcons now. He was an all-SEC guy, that kind of presence off the edge that really worried opposing offenses. And then, another guy, Omar Norman Lott, was the second-round pick of the Chiefs. He was pretty effective on the interior. So they got to find some pass rushers. And then Jermon McCoy is their all-SEC cornerback, potential first-round pick next season. He's coming off an ACL injury. He's not going to play in this game, but I think they need to get him back before they get too deep into the SEC season to really be where they need to be. But this defense should be strong again. It's going to be a pretty typical SEC defense: big, strong, fast, physical, a lot of athletes. They like what they've built in the secondary with some of the versatile guys they've got there. But really, the strength's been on the defensive line, and that group has been capable of overwhelming teams if you aren't good on the offensive line. And certainly, this game is obviously Tennessee against Syracuse. It's not SEC against ACC, but the 2 ACC teams that Tennessee's played the past 2 seasons really struggled against their defensive line. That was Virginia 2 years ago and NC State last season. And, this defensive line, if you're unable to neutralize it, Tennessee can just really tee off, and it makes it really difficult for opposing offenses. But if you can neutralize it, which some teams did last season with their offensive line, the rest of it is, it's vulnerable, it's gettable. So maybe those other groups have improved from last season, but this is a defense that's led by its defensive line. Again, they lost some guys, but they still bring back a lot of the rotation. They will roll in 2 and 3 groups of guys without much drop-off. They play 10 to 12 guys. Rodney Garner is one of the best defensive line coaches in the country, and I think he's got another pretty good group. They need some new stars to emerge, like I said, and some young guys are stepping up, but it's kind of been he gets the benefit of the doubt, and it looks like another strong defensive line for Tennessee going into the season.
Curious to get your thoughts on Syracuse as you get ready to cover this game. So, from the outside looking in, what stands out to you about the Orange, and lay out a formula for us, if you could, of how Syracuse, keeps this game close, gives itself a chance, and maybe pulls off the upset. What do you see Syracuse having to do?
Well, I think it's interesting to me that Fran Brown is coming from Georgia, which Tennessee and under Josh Heupel has put points up on everybody for the most part, except Georgia. They have not scored more than 17 points in 4 games against Georgia, and obviously we know the kind of talent that the Bulldogs have had, but Fran Brown's probably not going to have that level of talent on the field on Saturday, but there's familiarity with this offense, how to scheme for it, how to prepare for it, and he's had a whole off season. And I mentioned too, Elijah Robinson coming from Texas A&M. They played Tennessee a couple seasons ago, so there's a lot of familiarity on the Syracuse staff, and they've had a lot of time to maybe work on some different wrinkles defensively to throw at this new look offense. So I think it'll be interesting to see, because if you're Syracuse. Defensively, I think you probably want to sell out to stop the run and make Joey Aguilar and these unproven wide receivers beat you. But if I'm mistaken, Syracuse looks to be kind of young at corner. So you want to put those guys on an island and maybe their first significant action and things like that. So that's a balance that they'll have to strike. But if Syracuse can, neutralize the run game a little bit, if they can sort of contain that defensive line and not just get overrun, then they can definitely hang around in this game. I don't think anybody at Tennessee is really overlooking Syracuse at all. I think they know that this team was really good last season, and even though they lost a lot of guys, that winning can be contagious. So they're expecting a tough game, but if Syracuse can make some plays through the air and do that with Steve Angeli and some of the wide receivers that played last season with some of those other guys that left, but still have some experience, I think there's certainly a path for Syracuse to keep this game close, and it could be a four-quarter game. I wouldn't be totally surprised if it was, just because, like we said at the top, just so many unknowns, right? You get to this point of the preseason right before the game, and you're just like, do we really know what the heck's going to happen? We talk to people and all this stuff, but you get to this point, it's like, who knows? So we'll have to see what happens. I think that's what makes this such a fascinating and intriguing opener for both teams.
Yeah, and you mentioned the youth at defensive back, Demetrius Samuel Jr., 17 years old. I think he's the youngest player in college football this year. Chris Peel, who's in his third year of college, but only played 5 games total during his time at Georgia. So lack of experience, talent certainly there, but as you said, youth and inexperience maybe at the cornerback position for Syracuse. Lastly, as we wrap up this interview, Patrick, just we'd like to get a prediction out of you. Who wins? What do you think the score is on Saturday?
I think Tennessee will win. I do think I don't think it'll be. Again, I'm like I mentioned, I don't want to say I'm jaded by seeing Tennessee just overwhelm a couple of ACC teams, and I never like to do that because it's about the team logo on the jersey and not the conference logo, but. I think Syracuse will make this a game for longer than NC State and Virginia did, just because it's an opener. Tennessee's got a lot of new pieces on offense. If they come together in the first game, then it could maybe get out of hand. And if everything comes together for Syracuse with all their new pieces in the first game, then certainly it could get dicey for Tennessee. So I would pick Tennessee to win. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick them to cover. I think the spread's about 2 touchdowns. It looks pretty accurate to me. So I can see it being a 2-score game, but Syracuse still covers. That's probably where I'm leaning at this point, but that could change even in going into the last little bit here before kickoff.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping that it's at least a competitive game, and we shall see. As you said, we're going to learn a lot more about both of these teams around this time tomorrow. Patrick, thanks so much for coming on. We very much appreciate it, and good luck covering the Vols this season.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on, and enjoy the game.
All right, Patrick Brown from Go Vols 24/7. We'll take a time out here. We'll get to our keys to the game on the other side.
That's what I was doing while you were doing the interview.
You were doing your keys to the game.
Brilliant keys to the game.
I've already got